ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hey, good morning. This is Arlene.
Hi, this is Grace.
And of course, you are with us on our Monday morning, where we bring you, as usual, the news from Southeast Asia, 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning in Malaysia time. So what's happening lately in around the corner in Southeast Asia?
Well, we just finished celebrating Raya, and then a lot of people were visiting houses, families and friends, and inviting non-Muslims as well to celebrate this biggest celebration of the year. And then, in fact, there were quite a blessing. And also, of course, a lot of food were there, and a lot of people claim to gain more weight after Raya celebrations.
That's true. That is being celebrated for Muslims around the world, including in Southeast Asia, where it has one of the largest Muslim population in the world. Of course, when you talk about food, it's not just about the usual festive food. We also want to talk about a food that globally is so popular that you cannot not see it. I'm talking about the Golden Arch or the Big Mac. Apparently, Malaysia has the 5th cheapest Big Mac in the world.
So, this is quite tricky whether to judge whether it's a good news or not. We are not encouraging to have more fast food here, but apparently Malaysia ranked 5th for the cheapest Big Mac hamburger worldwide. I mean, there are so much more menus when you visit McDonald's than any franchise around the world. But then compared to other countries, according to the economists especially, Malaysia has one of the cheapest Big Mac around the world. And this Big Mac comes with the melted cheese and the fresh lettuce, and it tells about the currencies and economy as well. And the Big Mac Index released on July about 16 showed that the Malaysia ringgit was undervalued by 58%, and the whole figure was derived based on the comparison of the average price of the Big Mac burger in the United States as of the July this year, which was 18.17 ringgit, but in Malaysia it was just 7.62, so it's like less than half of the price.
Oh, that's interesting. So for those who want to cut costs because of the GST, you know where to go, which is to eat your Big Mac. Actually, a lot of students, when they want to cut costs, they actually ended up in fast food.
Yeah, and then it's also because of the dropping in the ringgit. So when you convert the US dollar to here, it has the undervalued by 56%. So this time was 3.62 compared to $1 US dollar. However, the top 3 countries that are most expensive burgers are Switzerland, Norway, and Sweden. And then apparently the cheapest Big Mac are from Venezuela, Ukraine, India, and Russia, as well as Malaysia.
I'm so proud of our country when it comes to Big Mac, when it comes to food. But another area that Malaysia is doing quite well is, of course, startups. If you see that there's so many startups springing up in Southeast Asia, especially in Malaysia, 500 startups. Magic has announced new ASEAN-focused growth stage accelerator.
And then this program has been announced, and they're attracting a lot of Malaysians as well as Southeast Asian startups and entrepreneurs as well. And this project called Distrito Dojo Accelerator Program is a 10-week program for growth stage startups that have raised at least around 150,000 US dollars in the funding from other investors as well.
So what is Distro Dojo in Asia? It will actually mark the first time that 500 startups, which is a company, is bringing its Distro Dojo Accelerator launched in London last month to Asia. So on Magic's end, which is the organization that is sponsored by the government, Malaysian government, will lead by former Silicon entrepreneur Cheryl Yeo, which support administrative costs and provide space for 500 startups to run the program over the course of 3 years. And it is expected to have 100 ASEAN startups being graduated within those 3 years. So for those aspiring entrepreneurs, perhaps you might want to look into this.
And that this is a very great news for those who wants to look into more innovation and meeting a lot of great people from Southeast Asia or around the world. This could be a chance for you. So perhaps register for this program, 10-week program, and lot as much as you can from this, because apparently if you look at the speakers, not only the Cheryl Low, who is the Magic CEO, but then you can also be able to meet the managing director, who's Kaylee Ng, as well as the guest trainer Neil Patel as well.
Apparently, it's the world's first growth stage accelerator. According to Yo, she is really happy to see that the idea has become full-grown program, and she believes that Distro Dojo is the world's first growth stage accelerator. And beyond the actual learning from the accelerator, another big reason for having this program in ASEAN, in particular at Magic, is to inculcate the sense of ASEAN startup brotherhood. So it's all about connectivity between all the different ASEAN entrepreneurs in this region, and form, of course, a greater bond and relationship. I'm so interested to know more, and hopefully it can flourish into something greater in the future.
For sure. And then this is also focusing on a lot of companies in Southeast Asia. And in fact, the Distro Dojo Asia has actually completed the pilot batch from 2014 August to October. That was from Malaysia, Singapore, and as well as Indonesia. So Distro Dojo pilot program was quite successful. So hopefully this new program, 10-week program, will be able to attract more entrepreneurs and startup company from Southeast Asia.
Another thing that happened during the weekend, of course, is the Myanmar's Martyr's Day. You guys know that in November 8, it will be the first time Myanmar will have its general election since the 1990s. But for yesterday, Myanmar was actually celebrating its country's darkest moment. It was actually the time where visitors were given rare access to the compound where Aung San, the country's independence hero and father of opposition leader Aung San Suu Kyi, was killed. Aung San has remained a powerful force in Myanmar's politics. In 68 years since his death, his image has been used not only by his daughter but also his political rival to give themselves legitimacy and gain popularity support among a public that is still largely reveres the fallen leader.
So this, in line with expecting the general election in Myanmar, this day marks also a quite significant day to remember what has done in the country. And Myanmar is famously known for having military and also a different government system. But now it is moving towards the democratic system. So that, and in November, will mark another historical day. So towards that, a lot of people were remembering the father and also the leader of the country. And in fact, Aung San, she was just 32 in 1947, and then she was gunned down along with several colleagues by political rivals as they held a meeting in the secretariat. And then this, at the moment, the assassination plot has never been fully explained until now.
So that's all from our breaking news today. We will continue after this.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Welcome back. This is Grace.
Of course, you are on our ASEAN Daily again. This time we focus more on the political side of ASEAN Daily. So, a new Indonesia military base near the South China Sea. question mark. This is a new development happening, it seems like.
And then the Indonesia government, actually they announced the plan to construct a new military base to guard border these areas near the South China Sea, which in fact ASEAN as well as Southeast Asia has been having a lot of issues and the controversial discussions over this South China Sea.
Apparently, as it stands now, the plan is better read as part of Indonesia President Jokowi increasing focus on safeguarding the country's sovereignty as part of the country's foreign policy rather than a new departure on hardening Indonesia's South China Sea's position per se. So while defending Indonesia's borders is, of course, the new goal, Jokowi's administration have made it one of the top foreign policy priorities. That is what the Indonesia's Foreign Minister Retno Marsudi's first annual policy statement in Jakarta in January, indicating that the protecting Indonesia's sovereignty will be accomplished by responding firmly to any intrusion into Indonesia's territory by settling maritime borders.
So when it comes to South China Sea, I mean, it does sort of disturb the neighboring countries, and then the conflict between China and then perhaps Vietnam, the Philippines, and as well as a few other countries around the area has been going on. And then the conflict remains, and in fact the force and also the sort of the power from China is getting worse and worse. And Indonesia wants to come up with a sort of a new plan to build more military posts in the border and as to have the safeguard in the territorial integrity, which is perhaps it's a brighter news when it comes to South China Sea. But then we also need to think about the China and the South China Sea are not the only sovereignty issues that Indonesia needs to think about. In fact, they also need to, they are welcoming the plan because he did not want to have all sort of the war or a conflict against the South China Sea. Perhaps it could be a sort of peaceful agreement or the plan to have a better relationship with China over South China Sea.
One thing I want to add more from your side is when it comes to Indonesia, I think in the beginning they do want to play the neutral role, to be the mediator, to not dwell deeper into the conflict, and to put in the position where it is about trying to create a peaceful negotiation between all the parties involved in the South China Sea crisis. But let's not forget that Indonesia also has its own territory being reclaimed by China. I'm talking about the Natuna Islands.
Right.
So the Chinese Nai-dash line overlaps with Jakarta's exclusive economic zone generated from the resource-rich Natuna Islands chain. And it is not limited only to the South China Sea issue. Indeed, it only examines the Indonesia's media reports closely beyond the headlines. The plan, as described by the head of Indonesia's National Development Planning Board, Andrinov Chaniago, is to protect Indonesia's territory in border areas more generally. Within this plan, the Natuna Islands is also one of the several potential base locations still under construction, along with Sambas, West Kalimantan, Tarakan, Northern Kalimantan, and the Riau Islands.
Right. I mean, those are the things that Indonesia has been eyeing on. And then, like you mentioned, Natunas in particular, it's a sort of a new concern that Indonesia has been having. And in fact, they have been having this central feature since the 1990s. And no doubt that Indonesia under Jokowi has continued to strengthen the capabilities to protect the interest in the South China Sea, and then they have not really fading away from its significant bringing up this awareness and its stand on this question. But We also have a reported and discuss about how Indonesia just blast a few vessels in the sea. So that shows how they want to really emphasize the marine security as well as to protect their territories.
So there you go. When it comes to Indonesia, definitely Jokowi is continuing its strengths and capabilities to protect its interests in the South China Sea and not shy away from signaling where it stands on the sovereignty questions, especially regarding on the Natuna Islands. On the other hand, talking about Southeast Asia, no hanky panky. Southeast Asia apps woo investors with local experts. Apparently, Manila office workers Catherine Anunciacion, 28 years old, wanted new friends, so she joined Pikawoo, a dating app made for women that emphasizes fun and companionship, but nothing more.
Well, when it comes to companionship sort of application, a lot of applications are very well known in Southeast Asia, and that through this app, people make friends. And in fact, Pikawoo is also one of the dating apps that's set up by Southeast Asian startups. And then, it has been used by lots of people, and then living in the sort of conservative societies where dating too often is sort of people raise their eyebrows and certain issues, and then also casual sex is also taboo here. So, in fact, investors and also potential the businessmen are eyeing on, and they are actually attracted to this app, and then by having this potential in region where perhaps there are a lot of people, especially aged below 35, they're welcoming this application.
I think this is kind of probably one skill up from Tinder. maybe it's more Southeast Asian friendly than Tinder, but I applaud the founder of Pikawoo for actually see the potential of trying to invest in Pikawoo. I totally agree, casual sex is a taboo topic in Southeast Asia, but I think when it comes to people in Southeast Asia, they do see sex as an important part of their lives, maybe not openly or publicly, but you never know. I think the popularity of the app will only speaks on the culture in Southeast Asia that we have.
Even though this topic that we're talking about, this application may stray away from our political issues in Southeast Asia, but we can also think politically here, where even though having a casual sex or having a sort of intimate relationship in Southeast Asia may sound a taboo, but then politically and also ironically, more applications are coming up, and then those applications do attract a lot of investors, especially in Southeast Asia.
And another app that is funny and it's for Muslims. It's called Mat and Mina. I don't know you heard that.
That sounds like a cartoon character. Yeah.
So Mat and Mina is a short form to call for the guy and the girl, So Mat is usually referred as is a term to just call a guy,
And then Mina is for a girl.
Yeah, but sometimes they use it not in a good way, especially Mina. But this founder Zuraimi Ismail for Mat and Mina app, an app for Muslims seeking to find a potential spouse on their own and not through family matchmaker. He said that our members have to know that this is not a hookup app and there's no hanky panky. So this is another app that is starting to gain a lot of popularity among Muslims in Southeast Asia, and it's definitely something that Muslims are looking at, because in Muslim culture, of course, you don't go through the cycle of casual sex and all that. You actually, the end goal of marriage is, the end goal of relationship is
marriage.
Is for marriage and for the long term.
Right.
So it's definitely suitable for Muslims.
So hope that, well, we have a lot of apps around when it comes to dating apps, but then it also matters how we utilize all those apps after all. Or what's your end goal? Is it marriage or is it something else? So I guess it's up to the person's choice when it comes to applications.
Another app that I want to highlight, of course, you have Pikawoo and then you have Mat and Mina.
Right.
Another one that is interesting, probably more towards the Chinese community, is called Pakto.
What's pato?
Pakto is a Chinese slang to describe dating.
All right.
Yeah,
okay.
like I want to pakto with you. I want to date with you.
All right.
Yeah.
So it's also targeting Chinese, I guess.
Yeah. So the regions is the region's most popular app with some 5 million registered users. Offer in-app purchase. Members can buy virtual gifts to potential sweethearts, as well as tickets to singles events organized by startup behind the app.
Right, that's very interesting, Arlene.
So, Grace, do you want to join any of it?
Oh, I'm not really interested in the application though.
So you prefer face-to-face relationship?
For me, yes.
Anyway, we'll take another one short break. When we return, we will have more news on the economic side of Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hey, good morning.
Welcome back. This is Grace.
So on our economic news, apparently ASEAN Development Bank announced that it cuts its 2015 and 2016 economic growth forecasts and for both China and other developing Asian countries due to the persistent economic slowdown in the world's second largest economy, of course, China.
When it comes to economic growth, Southeast Asia in general, there was an economic slowdown, and in fact, ADB chief economic Shang Jinwei, he mentioned that the slower growth in China is likely to have a noticeable effect on the rest of Asia, given its size and also close link with other countries in the region, because China, being second largest economic around the world, the nation has been dealing with a lot of businesses and economic when it comes to trades and also working with a lot of areas and the regional and global value chains, of course, and sort of weaker than expected external demand, the declining working age populations as well as rising in wages, they have contributed to slow rate of the growth in China, and that they are now reformed to aim at improving labor market flexibility as well as a capital allocation to the most productive firms that they can help to raise this growth rate.
Another country that is also facing slow growth is the US, and unfortunately Southeast Asia rely a lot on China and the US, and of course we are seeing slower than previously forecasted growth of 4.6% for 2015, weighed down by lower than expected first half performance in Indonesia, Singapore and Thailand. In 2016, the sub-regional economy is projected to expand 5.1% below the 5.3% point previously estimated. So although consumption growth remains strong in China, investment growth has continued to decelerate, and this is not good for Southeast Asia, especially when it aspires towards the ASEAN economic community and investing in connectivity, which requires a huge sum of investment by external parties.
For sure, and that in fact, on the contrary, there is China statistics, the chief of China Statistics, who gave sort of optimistic view when it comes to the growth or or perhaps the economic slowdown in China, that he said there is still potential that we can boost up our economical growth, and that there is great potential and a high resilience. Industrialization and the urbanization will generate large room for the future growth. However, we cannot also ignore there's a slower recovery of the global economy, as well as domestic problems that China has to solve from economic restructuring will add uncertainties to the public as well as the economic.
So he's actually banking on China's economic structure and the quality of growth for improvement, the drive of mass entrepreneurship and innovation, and repeated cuts to red tape are unleashing creativity and market vitality. So it's not all that bad in China. Entrepreneurship is definitely one of the key factors that will drive China out from the glut of economic recession right now. On the other hand, talking about the economy, of course, one area that a lot of people might not realize is the area of entertainment or Hollywood.
Right.
But unfortunately, when it comes to Hollywood, Asian actors don't really get the lead role. I can't remember the last time I watched a Hollywood movie where the lead actor is an Asian, other than Jackie Chan, of course.
I mean, it's very interesting article that we're discussing here, because when we think about Jackie Chan or not only Jackie, Jet Li even, those are the personalities that we see on TV, and they take the role as a sort of the kung fu master.
Yeah, typecast in a way.
Yeah, so that's when perhaps the images are set. So when it comes to Hollywood has a lot of perhaps the largest film production around the world, where perhaps the white people gets the important role, or even the main characters, rather than the Asians are given to the Asians.
And as a result, they are rarely given opportunity to portray leading romantic characters or either fiction or non-fiction Hollywood movies. This is according to Penang-based director and actor Julian Chia. And I totally agree with Julian Chia that top-rated movie making, Malaysia is unable to make huge strides in the world of top-rated movie making because Asian men are seen by Western producers as unromantic and lacking sexuality.
But this is very perhaps a one-sided opinion, because then my question is, how did Japan or Korea, their own dramas and movies, make to the to hit Southeast Asia as well as to America? Because they're not up to the standard of Hollywood, but then we can also see all those romantic stories coming from the dramas and especially Korean movies.
Well, that's the thing, right? A lot of the movies that you cited are movies that are for Asian consumers or Asian market. But for Hollywood, they are for the global market, and the global market see the Western standard as probably the only standard that everyone needs to fulfill. And because of that, there's a survey by a US-based internet dating portal find that over 80% of American women do not believe Asian men are sensual and romantic. I beg to differ. I think our Asian men are doing just fine.
They're fine. perhaps the romantic or the expectation here perhaps is different from Western and Asian.
We need to make like Asian men as sex symbol. I think we need to bring in some Bollywood actors, maybe some Korean and Japanese actors, and Southeast Asian hunks. Lately there's a sharing of people with Asian men with good-looking bodies and face,
and lomang seller
selling tofu, durians, lemang. I think definitely Asian men can cut.
So hope we can catch up and beat this stereotyping when it comes to Asian men.
Yeah, anyway, that's all from our news commentary now. We will come back again tomorrow bringing you more news from Southeast Asia. But before that, just to let you know that you can always listen to us live at durianasian.com or on the go by downloading the TuneIn app and listen and search for Durian ASEAN.
And we've been receiving a lot of feedbacks on social media, but then more feedbacks are welcome on the Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.